And so welcome. I appreciate you coming and appreciate you taking the time for our 7th class. This is sort of a refresher or review of the 6 classes. And it is about a month since our last class. So I'll tell you about some other resources too to kind of keep it going, to help you keep your practice going. And today we're going to do what I call advanced meditations. Not really advanced, but they're just a little different than what we've done during the 6-week class. And hopefully give you a little bit of motivation or inspiration to keep your practice going. So let's move on. So just take a mindful minute before we kind of get into everything. And this is a little bit different than the usual pauses, but just going to ask you to sit quietly. We're going to do a silent pause. And just as we do this, all you have to do is just pause and rest and notice, what are you aware of? So take a comfortable position. We'll do this maybe for a couple of minutes. So find a comfortable position, take a moment to adjust. You can close your eyes, although you can also keep them open and include the visual field into your awareness. So whichever way you're most comfortable, and just take a moment. I'm just going to leave you with silence for a minute or two. And again, just be aware. What do you notice? What comes in through the senses? Sight, sound, smell, touch. And what's going on up here, just notice that as well. Just be aware. So we'll just enter into silence for a minute or two. And then before we close, you might take a deep breath. And if your eyes have been closed, you can open them and then just sort of return to the webinar. And so we haven't done a lot of silence in the meditations so far. Most of the meditations have been guided. So there's a fair amount of instruction going on. But that's something that you might try. You might try some silent pauses. Or you might try some silent meditations. There's an instructor by the name of Susan Piver, and she calls it the Open Heart Project. If anybody's interested, just shoot me an email. I can tell you how to get in touch. I get a weekly email, and she does a meditation. And a lot of it is silent. She does provide some instructions for the beginning part, getting settled, what to do with your breath and your body. But then the bulk of the meditation is silence. And it's kind of an interesting way to try something to maybe put into your rotation, if you will, for your practice. So how's it going? I wanted to just check in with y'all, and it has been a month, as I say. Just curious how your practice is for you. Have you found somewhat of a routine, somewhat of a habit to do some of the mindfulness practices? And what do you notice about what's working and what is getting in the way? And yeah, so please feel free to use the chat, or if you'd like to speak up, that's fine too. And so we got, it's going well for me, just need to remember to set apart time to do it. So yeah, that's probably one of the biggest hurdles or challenges in a sense. And in fact, I was just listening to that same instructor, Susan Piver, talking about it's not really a lack of self-discipline that we don't do the practice every day, but she said there are 3 ingredients, and one of the ingredients is to have a group to do it with, other people to practice with. That's why in the beginning, I think I mentioned maybe have a mindful buddy, somebody that you could even do that if you're not even in the same room. I mean, you could text somebody and say, we're going to start at a certain time and take 10 minutes. But we also have the phone meditations, which I'll remind you again about. And that's even though we're not physically present, we're doing it together. So it's a way to kind of have some accountability and somebody to do it with, which I think is reinforcing to our practice. So, and the other thing, what I would say about that is all of this is a work in progress. So, you know, finding that I've never found like that perfect time for myself. It sort of varies on the day, what's going on for me, and you know, the weekends are different. So I do it at different times. On a normal, regular day, I tend to do it in the morning. I tend to do it along with some mindful movement and stretching. And that for me is a good way to kind of kick the day off and help my body, but also do some meditation practice. So we also have a second comment here. Practice is going good. I have to say I've been really been concentrating on my breathing, and it feels really good. Relaxes my mind and my body. So yeah, it's, you know, even if you just stick with that one focus, there is nothing wrong with that. That's actually a great observation that, you know, really focusing on the breathing. Breathing is, as you've heard from a lot of the meditations, sort of a core and a central part. And it makes sense, right? Because we're hopefully always breathing. We're not always aware of the breath, but we're always breathing. So, and we can do different things with the breath. And I think you might have noticed we've done different types of breathing, but a lot of it is just feeling the breath and really tuning into the breath sensation. So good. So thank you for that. Any other comments about how it's working for you and what gets in the way before I move on? All right, so just a reminder, a lot of this is reminders, but we will do some new stuff as well. Integrating the formal practices with informal practices in your day, finding that balance. For me, that's always been really helpful. And I think for a lot of people, they find one or the other really fits with them. So a lot of people do informal practices, say, for example, when you take the dog for a walk, and or, you know, just, well, like I mentioned before, with my stretching in the morning, that's sort of an informal, but I do try to link some formal practice. So actually sitting and listening to a meditation, or just taking some of that silent time. So it's good to have both. This is a quote from James Baraz. Mindfulness is simply being aware of what's happening right now without wishing it were different. Enjoying the pleasant without holding on when it changes, which it will. And being with the unpleasant without fearing it will always be this way, which it won't. So getting to that underlying fact that things always change. Even when things are unpleasant, they'll eventually go away. This too shall pass. And when things are really pleasant and we want to hold on to them, well, we know that that can't happen either. So that's really, I think, a good quote for our mindful practices. And just to remind you, simple little pauses. These are good informal practices. Doing 3 conscious deep breaths. How long does that take? 3 breaths for a pause. To remind you, is the first breath is feeling the breath itself. The second breath is feeling into your body. How does your body feel? What does it need? And the third breath is to remember to be kind to yourself and appreciate yourself, and some self-care kinds of making yourself a priority in a sense without feeling guilty. And then savor is to stop, sense, appreciate, and go. So in other words, stop and smell the roses, to just really take in those pleasant moments. Sometimes we skip over them, but when something unexpected happens, sometimes we don't notice it, and we don't take advantage of it. We don't let it absorb or sink in. So that's what savoring is all about. And then there's the hand tracing. Remember, we did this. You trace your hand with your other finger. And as you go up the finger, you're breathing in and then breathing out as you go down. And so you sort of combine the breath with that tactile sense, combining at least a couple of senses into that. And then feel your feet is simply feeling your feet wherever they are, but feeling your feet, for example, connecting you to the ground in that sense of groundedness and connection. So simple, quick little pauses that are easy to do in the moment as you go throughout your day. So I know you've seen this quote before, and it talks about kind of tapping into that peaceful or blissful state of mind, even when this is perfect because I got my dog barking in the background. Somebody came to the door, and there's always stuff going on for most of us, especially this time of year. It can be quite hectic and chaotic. So how do you find these peaceful moments? Well, part of the lesson here is simply that to not try too hard, to just let peaceful moments happen. And when you notice a peaceful moment, to take advantage of sort of that savoring technique. But I do want to run you through a quick little exercise from Jack Kornfield, a well-known meditation instructor, that's called the space of awareness. And just to introduce this whole idea of just simply being aware, just simply being aware, kind of what we did in the beginning of that silent meditation, and increasing our awareness and being aware of what's going on. Well, let me do this brief practice, and I think that'll illustrate better than me trying to explain it. So close your eyes, and if you want to keep them open, keep them slightly open with a downward, unfocused gaze, and just simply begin to notice what's here. So just what do you notice? What's here in your awareness right now? For me, the dog has settled down, so that's helpful. But there's also the sound of a leaf blower out in somebody's yard, and I'm noticing my hands are a little cool. And I feel relatively settled, but so anyway, that's for me. Just notice for you what's here right now. And now I'll direct your attention, sort of like a flashlight, shining the flashlight on your face, for example. What does your face feel like right now? Is there any tension that you might be carrying? So you can let the eyes and the face soften. Let the jaw relax, let your shoulders relax. Feel into your arms and hands, let them relax. The chest, the belly. We're just observing and relaxing as we go. The back, the legs, all the way down to your feet. And notice how the body breathes itself. you don't have to do anything. The breath comes in and out, just like the wind moving through the trees outside. So just feel the breath breathing itself. And now notice any feelings or emotions that might be present. Maybe you're feeling restless or rushed or peaceful or something you got to do, or maybe there's some stress or sadness or being excited or happy. So just notice any feelings with a kind attention. Continuing to breathe. And with them, notice a stream of thoughts that's going on. It's usually there are thoughts in the mind. So what's going on in the mind? Maybe there are evaluations and judgments. I like this, or I don't like that. Or maybe there's words or images in your thought stream. Just being aware of those thoughts and emotions. Now, here's the trick. The body, the breath, the feelings, the thoughts, they come and go like waves in the ocean. Who you are is the space of awareness. The ocean itself, all those things are the waves. Or you might think of the awareness, the space of awareness that is you, like the sky, that feels the body breathing, that notices emotions arising and passing, is aware of the pictures and words and thoughts like clouds coming into the space of awareness, into that sky. But you're the sky, you're hanging out with the sky itself. And you can relax into the openness as if your mind is the sky, and all your experiences are arising and passing like clouds in the vast space of your own mind. So just rest in this open, living awareness. Trust it, relax into it. So when you're ready, you can open the eyes if they're closed, and maybe taking another deep breath and just maybe stretching a little bit and coming back to here and now. But that is a way to think about this awareness that is you. And you can do this in brief moments. And sometimes they use the expression small moments many times. And you can even just do this by asking yourself, what am I aware of right now? And just noticing. Okay, you're not spacing out, but what am I aware of right now? And just noticing what's going on. And this can help you tap into the present moment and maybe find that peaceful moment, even during the holiday hecticness and things that are going on. Okay, so that is sort of a whole new, different way to kind of look at things. Being kind of, who you are is that open space of awareness. We can think of it as like the sky or the ocean itself. And we'll do the second meditation, which will be a bit longer. We'll include some of that in there as well. You can also do quick gratitude pauses. So just breathing deep, appreciating the aliveness in your body, scanning the body, noticing what's good about the body. Don't be critical. It's not about what you don't like about the body, but what's good. What do you appreciate about your body? How does the body serve you and do things for you? And then who are you grateful for? And even the small things, small little things that you might be grateful for, unexpected moments of kindness from somebody or beauty in nature, whatever it might be. So those are also ways to just take those pauses and be mindful and present. And this is, again, just a reminder, the stop exercise is what sometimes called the 1 minute breathing space. So the S stands for stop. Take it, just stop when you're feeling stressed. The T is take a deep mindful breath. The O is then to observe. Okay, so you're observing what's around you. You're observing internally what's going on, what thoughts are present, what feelings, and what's going on in the body, right? That's the stop exercise. And then you proceed from there with that sort of different expanded awareness. And then there's the everyday mindfulness, all these routine activities that we do. These are things that you can keep doing, and it can be expanded, from all those routine tasks like washing the hand or brushing the teeth or doing the laundry or whatever it is. There's lots of different ways to do that. You can do that while you're eating, remember? So this is something for me, also cooking as you're preparing your meals or getting your coffee or tea ready. You can do that mindfully and really pay attention closely to what you're doing and just using the senses to savor it, right? You can also do that with walking. Remember, we can pay attention to what we're doing, where we're walking, how that walking feels, the movement of the body, the lifting and placing of the feet. And this link will actually take you to a script, an actual guided meditation, but it's really simple. You just really, again, pay attention to what that walking feels like. And then, of course, that we've seen this before, mindful movement, mindful stretching. As I mentioned, I do this a lot myself, but this could be adapted for any form of exercise, really, but some of you might already do yoga or gentle yoga. There's some videos for that already, but just simple cat stretches and just doing it a little bit. Maybe I find to do it a little more slowly than usual, paying close attention to what that stretch feels like, and then releasing the tension. Because a lot of this is about releasing tension. It's not just about that, of course, but a lot of it is, it's helpful to kind of let that tension go and being aware of, oh yeah, I am holding a lot of tension in my shoulders. I wasn't even aware of that until all of a sudden you pay attention to it, and then you maybe do some stretching and shoulder rolls, and then you let that tension go. And I want to remind you about the attitudes. There are all of these attitudes that are part of our practice. There is a video here. This is an active link. If you haven't watched that already, by John Kabat-Zinn, he goes over all the 9 attitudes. But I think some of the more important ones are these: patience. I think all of this helps us develop our patience and our kindness towards ourselves and others. Accepting of the moment, accepting things the way they are. Non-judging. Now, this is, I think, a key attitude that is sometimes misunderstood, and I always find it a little bit difficult to explain. So I found this. This is a quote by Ram Dass, who's an American. He's actually passed away, I think, a year or two ago. He was one of the early Americans who went over to India and in the East, the Far East, to study meditation and mindfulness. And Jack Kornfield, Sharon Salzberg, Joseph Goldstein, these are all people who in that same kind of group, and brought mindfulness and meditation practices back to the United States. So anyway, the quote is, I think, really helpful. The judging mind is very divisive. It separates. Separation closes your heart. If you close your heart to someone, you are perpetuating your suffering and theirs. Shifting out of judgment means learning to appreciate your predicament and their predicament with an open heart instead of judging. then you can allow yourself and others to just be without separation. And, I would, you know, it's obvious we need this more than ever in our world these days. If we were less polarizing and judging, and we're all judging really does is it creates that us versus them kind of mentality. But when it comes down to your mindfulness practice, I came across this. I don't have this written out, but this is from Barry Boyce from mindful.org. And there's a little article on judging and non-judgment and how it helps in our mindfulness practice. Because when we talk about non-judgment, I mean, how does that work? Doesn't mean that we never decide that something is right or wrong, or wise or unwise, or advisable or inadvisable. No, I mean, we need to do that in our daily lives, right? How could we live without making those kinds of distinctions and decisions? But the instruction in mindfulness practice is asking us to try to, when we encounter different things, when we encounter thoughts, emotions, and body sensations. So just as an example, a body sensation might include something that's a little painful, or you might have some discomfort in your lower back or your belly or wherever, right? We all have these. And what we tend to do is we tend to then make a judgment. I don't like that. I want to change it. I want to get rid of it. I want to make it better, right? We have strong opinions, and we even tell stories to ourselves about those things, which really just makes it worse. It makes us resist it and focus on it in a way that is not helpful. So non-judging, at least in the meditation practice, and that's why we call it practice, is because we're trying to practice not automatically making that judgment. So trying to meet things as they are. Another example is a sound. Like I mentioned, the leaf blower. Leaf blowers can be annoying, right? And you hear, or a dog barking, something like that. Sounds can be annoying, but if we just hear the sound as it is, the sound itself, without applying labels to it, that's non-judging. So we try to do that in our meditation practice. And the more we do that, the more we find this pausing, or that little kind of space, when we're out in the world. And so instead of immediately judging, immediately coming up with those opinions that tend to divide us, we maybe have a little bit of space. It opens our heart a little bit. It maybe gives us a little bit more empathy, and it gives us a way to suspend the judgment so that we have that space. All right. Hopefully that makes sense, but it made sense to me, and hopefully I can kind of bring that across to you. But I'd love to hear, if you have any thoughts on that, feel free to put it into the chat, because I would really love to hear what your thoughts and questions are about the non-judging part of this. Now, this part of it is just remember to be kind to ourselves and kind of bring ourselves that's why I put up the Mona Lisa. She kind of reminds me of this half smile to ourselves and giving ourselves a little bit of kindness, and even doing that during the meditation. And so instead of being critical of ourselves and saying to ourselves, or I can't do this just right, or I'm not good at this, or whatever it is, fill in the blank, we tend to do that to ourselves, right? So part of the practice is to be kind to ourselves. And even when we've fallen off the wagon and we're not doing our practice for whatever habit that we want to continue, the way that we've set that goal, remember to be kind to ourselves, because with mindfulness practice, you don't really lose any ground if you stop doing it for a few days or even a few weeks. You just start fresh again. You go back and you pick it up where you left off. And there's really nothing wrong with that. So try a new beginning or a fresh start when that happens. So what I'd like to do now is a meditation that incorporates a little bit of what we did before. And it's called Body Like a Mountain, Heart Like an Ocean, Mind Like the Sky. So that there are similarities. And there are other ones too. I'll show them when, on the meditation page that hopefully you visited a few times to do some of the meditation. But this particular meditation is on there. But there's also like a mountain meditation and there's a lake meditation. And they all have similar kinds of imagery that help us tap into certain qualities that help us stay calm and focused and stable, or at least get to that point, even when we're rattled or even when we're feeling quite stressed out. So let's do the meditation and then we'll move on from there. So body like a mountain, heart like an ocean, mind like the sky, and this is based on the work of Vidymala Burch. So let's begin by taking a few nice full deep breaths. As you do this, letting the body give itself up to gravity and allowing the body to kind of sink into the surface beneath you. Especially as you breathe out, allow yourself to arrive in this position, in this place. Allow the mind and the body to settle and rest. Feeling the cycle of your breathing for a few breaths. And allowing the breathing to find its own rhythm and pace. And if you haven't already, you can close the eyes or you can keep them slightly open, as I've said. Now, allowing our body to be like a mountain. Stable and grounded, yet breathing and flexible. And rest inside the stability of the mountain, and at the same time be open to flexibility. So as we sit, let an image form in your mind's eye of a magnificent, beautiful mountain. This could be one you've seen, or it could be totally in your imagination. And just let it gradually come into focus and clarity. Notice its shape and its magnitude, seeing its lofty peaks in the sky, its large base rooted in the Earth's crust. It might have steep or gently sloping sides, and just noticing how massive it is, solid and unmovable, and beautiful, beautiful from afar or up close. So just observing it and noticing its qualities. And with each breath, becoming a little more of a breathing mountain, alive and vital, yet unwavering in inner stillness, a centered, grounded, unmoving presence. And through all the changes, all the weather, all the seasons that the mountain experiences, the mountain just sits, remaining itself as the seasons flow, as the weather changes. And in the same way, as we sit in meditation, we learn to experience the mountain. We can embody the same stillness and groundedness in the face of everything that changes in our own lives, even when there are storms. By becoming the mountain in our meditation practice, we can link up with its strength and stability and adopt them for our own. So now let's turn to heart like an ocean. Being aware of our emotional life, get a sense of this as we bring our attention to the heart area and tune into your emotional weather. Just the broad feeling tone. You might be peaceful, you might be sad, you might feel relief at being still. But if our emotions feel intense, they're like putting food coloring in a glass of water, right? That color is very vivid and strong. If we put that into a small glass of water. But if we place the same amount into the ocean, we cannot even detect it. So see if we can release whatever intensity it might be. If it's an intense emotion, see if it can release it into this very broad perspective. And if emotions create some waves and turbulence, you can always throw out an anchor to steady and calm yourself. Just feel the breath again. Breathe deeply. Let the out-breath be long and empty all the air out. The waters may still be choppy, but your anchor keeps you steady and less tossed about. Now let's turn to the mind. Mind like the sky. Letting our mind's awareness be vast, limitless, and boundless, like a clear blue sky. Letting thoughts flow through this boundless awareness. Like clouds, they come and they go. Imagine that you're on top of a mountain now. Feel the texture of the ground. Feel it's made of earth and stone. It's firm and solid. And you're anchored on this mountain with your body and your mind. Breathe in deeply. Feel the clear, cool mountain air fill your lungs. And let that air fill your whole body, filling it with light, peace, and calmness. And look at the sky. It's blue, cloudless, perfectly clear. And all you can see in any direction is boundless, deep blue sky. And as you look into the sky, feel your mind expanding and emptying into this vast open space. All your thoughts and emotions dissolve into the vastness. Your mind is clear, empty, and as vast as the sky. And so just rest in the stillness. Continuing to breathe, just rest. And now let's be aware of all these dimensions at the same time. Body like a mountain, stable and grounded. Heart like the ocean, vast and deep. Mind like the sky, boundless and clear. Letting all of our experiences arise and pass, moment by moment, without getting so caught up in it. Now paying particular attention between the body and the floor, feeling into these sensations of the body being grounded. And when you're ready, you can begin to move the body and open the eyes, maybe stretch a little bit. And if you want, you can form an intention. Take this kind of awareness into your day. Body like a mountain, heart like an ocean, mind like the sky. All right, so that's that meditation. Hope you enjoyed that. Please let me know if you have a moment or two to put into the chat what that might have been like for you. Have any thoughts or comments? Love hearing them. And turning to, I think I've shown you this quote before, but I think it's worth repeating, from Sharon Salzberg. If we can remember to be mindful, I think that a lot of us always bring this up, we can add more moments of mindfulness. It's that small moments many times. If we can remember throughout the day to be mindful, just to be aware, just notice, doesn't have to be a formal full meditation. Just that makes all the difference. Countless times a day we lose mindfulness and become lost in reaction or disconnected from what's happening. But the moment we recognize that we've lost mindfulness, we've already regained it. That recognition is its essence, and we can begin again. All right, so let's see, a couple comments here. Great, thank you. Okay, very good. That meditation seemed to help me relax, but also focus. Good, yeah, it had a lot of imagery that sometimes helps. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's part of, like, there's a lot of different kinds of meditations. And, you might, as you progress, try different ones. And that's why I kind of just wanted to expose you to a couple of different ones. There's another one that I'll talk about quickly before we finish. But yeah, see what works for you, at different times as you're going through different things. And that can maybe be helpful. And, I know I've shown this many times before in a lot of the classes if you've been in them, but the lesson with this right now is that we can easily get caught up into being, our mind is full of all the worries and the stresses, like the guy here. And that's the moment when we recognize that. And even just for a moment to say, we can toggle out of that autopilot into more awareness and more clear seeing, right? We can just say to ourselves, okay, just breathe. What am I feeling? What am I thinking? And just let it settle. And that's because, as we know, thoughts, and this again, just to remind us, thoughts come up and they sometimes carry us away. But these quotes really give us the guidelines. I think we're not troubled by those things, those thoughts, but by the opinions we have about those things. So it's the opinions we have, it's those judgments, it's those stories that we tell ourselves that we kind of get troubled by. It's not the things themselves. And with the Viktor Frankl's quote, there's that space, that same kind of space that I was talking about before between stimulus and response. Finding that space gives us the power to choose our response. And that's how it can really help us with not getting to this place. But the thought meditations, I don't know if you've tried any of those. Those might be worth trying, because when we become more aware of our thoughts, they lose some of their power and intensity. Even if the thoughts are powerful, we can learn to step back from them and notice them floating on by, kind of like we did in the meditation today. They're not who we are. We're the sky. We're the sky that notices the thoughts. So this person here is getting totally burdened. And when we practice that with noticing our thoughts, we can't get rid of our thinking, right? We can't empty the mind, but we can sort of take the weight off of your mind. We don't have to be like that fella with all the burdens of life, but we can, in doing some of these practices, feel a little bit more open and a little bit more free. Same thing with emotions. Remember, we talked about, we can't stop the waves. The waves continue to come, but we can learn to surf. And it's the same thing with emotions. We can easily get carried away by emotions, and especially with strong emotions, especially when they pile up. But that's another thing that maybe you want to continue with your practice, is focusing on emotions. It's not something we easily go toward, but in your in your practice. It might be something you might want to use in some of the guided practices, working with some of those emotions. So this is what I was talking about before. This, when you get the slides, this will be an active link called The Spectrum of Awareness by Diana Winston. And she has a great little book called The Little Book of Being. And she talks about natural awareness. And essentially what it comes down to is that, like, for example, in a breathing meditation, we're focused on the breath, right? And when our mind wanders, we notice that mind wandering and we kind of touch it and grab it and then bring our attention back to the next breath, back to the anchor. That's focused awareness, okay? Then you can be a little bit more flexible, and the flexible awareness comes into when you notice that thought or emotion coming up, you begin to explore a little bit. You're curious about it. What kind of thought or emotion was it? Without getting wrapped up into it. That's the trick. We don't try to solve anything, but we're just observing a little bit of objectivity. And you're curious about it. So what does that thought tell you? What kinds of insights? Are they connected with emotion? So you just sort of like observe it a little bit more. That's a little bit more flexible awareness when you start noticing those things and paying more attention to them. And then the final stage is natural or open awareness. And that is when we really just sort of open up all the senses. And if you click into this link, when you get the slides, it'll run you through a meditation. So you can get really a good sense of that. But open awareness is kind of like we did with the silence and kind of like I did with that first brief meditation where we're just letting life sort of flow through us. We're just being aware of everything that's happening in the moment, trying not to be judgmental about it, trying to just be aware of it, trying to just notice it. And we can come back to that focus on the breath or the body at any time. That can restabilize us. But it's that being aware of everything that's going on in our experience at any given time. And that's what's sometimes called open awareness or choiceless awareness. We're not choosing to focus on any one thing in particular. And it's also called sometimes natural awareness. So that's something to consider going forward, something that you might find kind of interesting and a way to kind of broaden and deepen your practice. All right, so having said all that, and please let me know if you have any questions. We're kind of winding down now. I did want to give you some ways to continue. These are things that I've shared before, but just as a reminder, so on the EFR website, there's a whole page with 30 different guided meditations. So you've probably seen that because a lot of the links have already gone to that. There are apps to use. I use a couple of them. I think I find them very helpful. I do have my own website, budwassell.com, with some resources and meditations on there if you want to check that out. Podcasts, I find, are a really great way to learn more about all of these things that I've been talking about, to just broaden and expand your knowledge and your different types of things to check out. So some that I recommend are right there. 10% Happier. Tara Brach has a great podcast. Science of Happiness is another one. Once you start exploring them, you'll come up with a whole bunch of them. And I have I used to call it Mindfulness Refresher Class. So I'm changing the name starting in January to Monthly Mindfulness. So every month on the second Wednesday, it's from 12:30 to 1:15, and you can register for this on LMS. There is this mindfulness class. It'll last 45 minutes, and it's a great way to kind of keep the practice going. I usually have a theme that I talk about, and there's usually one good guided meditation, and we just sort of that's that sort of community getting together again on a regular monthly basis. Then I also have a bunch of stuff on YouTube, so all of these classes get posted on YouTube. There are those old refresher classes So there's a whole refresher playlist. You can go and check out any of those. There's nature videos. All of these multi-session classes are on there as well. So check that out too. Whoops, what happened here? Whoa, I went to that happened. So I'm not sure if you're seeing this, but I think I did something wrong. Let me go back to here. Yeah, are we still, do you see this? It should say M Life app. And I've shown you this many times, but is that what you're seeing on your screen right now?
Yeah, that's what we see. EM Life app.
So just to remind you, that's there, it's free. You go to that Caroline Wellbeing page. We still do the phone meditations. Those are all still happening. During this particular time before the holidays, for a week or two, we're doing holiday themed stress related meditation. So you might want to check some of those out. And then this is the EFR website with all the different, if you go to the main website, you scroll down and you'll see, what does it say? It says, click over for a second. Click into take a breath, take a break with meditation and relaxation audios. That's my meditation page on that particular site. So anyway, those are all there. And this is the last quote, and then I'll let you go, from John Kabat-Zinn. It helps to keep in mind that good or bad, pleasant or unpleasant, the present moment is the only time any of us are alive. Therefore, it's the only time to learn, grow, see what's really going on, find some degree of balance, feel and express emotions such as love and appreciation, and do what we need to do to take care of ourselves. And that takes a lot of practice, but we have lots of moments and lots of ways to practice, right? And we can treat each one as a new beginning. So remember, the real meditation is your life. It's not just those brief moments of meditation practice. It's your life, and it's how you inhabit it moment by moment. So with that, I see that there's a comment here. Let me just see. Oh, have to jump off. Very good. I understand. But I want to thank you for joining me on this particular journey. I hope it's been a helpful journey for you. And I say to you all, namaste. Thank you, and peace be with you over the holidays. I hope you find them warm and joyful. But I know sometimes they're very stressful too. So hopefully some of these practices come in handy. Any last thoughts before I let you go? Any last questions? Please feel free to let me know going forward if you have any questions. I'm happy to help in any way. And I hope you can join me in those monthly mindfulness as well. So I'm going to stop the recording and again say thanks.